Daniel had always been drawn to the cliffs at the edge of town. They were steep, rugged, and often overlooked by most people. To him, they were more than just rocks and trees. They were a place where the world felt quiet and full of secrets. Every weekend, he would grab his backpack, a bottle of water, and his notebook and hike along the trails. The cliffs were not easy to navigate, but Daniel liked the challenge. The wind would whip across the rocks and the birds would soar above, making him feel alive in a way that nothing else could. He loved the solitude, the feeling that the cliffs held stories no one else had discovered yet. One bright autumn morning, Daniel set out earlier than usual. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long golden streaks across the cliff tops. The air was crisp and the smell of pine mixed with the earthy scent of fallen leaves. He followed a narrow trail he had never walked before, winding around jagged rocks and over roots that jutted out of the ground. The trail was quiet, almost too quiet, as if the cliffs themselves were holding their breath. As he climbed higher, he noticed something unusual. Carved into the rock face, partially hidden by ivy and shadows, was the outline of a small doorway. It was hard to see at first, but once he noticed it, he could not ignore it. The doorway looked strange, like it had been there for a long time, but somehow still managed to stand out against the rough stone around it. The wood looked aged but solid, and the iron hinges were rusted but intact. It was odd because Daniel had hiked these cliffs many times and he had never seen anything like this before. He crouched down to get a closer look. The door was small, not much taller than him, and it seemed almost hidden on purpose. There were no markings, no windows, nothing to indicate what might be behind it. It was just a door, stuck into the rock as if the cliff itself had grown around it. Daniel felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had always been curious about abandoned places and hidden spots, but this felt different. There was something almost alive about the way the door seemed to watch him, to wait for someone to notice it. He ran his hand along the wood, feeling the rough texture under his fingers. The hinges creaked slightly, but the door did not move. It was as if the door was guarding something, waiting for the right person to come along. Daniel took a step back and looked around. The trail behind him was clear, but he noticed that the area around the door was undisturbed, almost hidden. No footprints, no signs that anyone had been there recently. It made him wonder who had built it and why. Had someone lived here a long time ago, or was it just a storage place for supplies? He couldn't tell. The cliff was known for its hiking trails, but it was also a place people avoided because of its steep drops and hidden ledges. It was possible that someone had used this place in secret for years and no one had ever noticed. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. Daniel had always been fascinated by mysteries, but now he was standing in front of one that felt real and immediate. He stepped closer again, his heart beating a little faster. The door had no lock, at least none that he could see. It seemed to invite him to open it, but at the same time he felt a wave of caution. He had read stories about explorers who found abandoned places only to discover dangers inside. But his curiosity was stronger than his fear. He took a deep breath and pressed his hand against the door. It was cold and solid, and for a moment he felt a strange connection to it, like the door was part of the cliff itself. He imagined what could be Daniel returned to the cliffs the next morning, his backpack filled with essentials and his heart pounding with anticipation. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft glow over the rocks and trees. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. He followed the narrow trail, careful with every step, his eyes fixed on the hidden doorway. As he approached, he felt a strange sense of calm mixed with excitement. The door looked exactly the same as the day before, solid and silent, as if it had been waiting for him. He reached out and pushed it open slowly. The hinges creaked, echoing slightly in the stillness of the cliffs. A narrow staircase led downward, carved directly into the rock. It was dark and the air smelled old but not unpleasant. Daniel switched on his flashlight, revealing walls covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. The steps were uneven, worn by time, but sturdy enough to walk on. He descended carefully, each step echoing in the quiet space. The sense of entering a hidden world was overwhelming. Every sound seemed amplified, every shadow more mysterious. Daniel could feel his heart racing, but he pressed on, driven by curiosity. At the bottom of the stairs, he found himself in a small room. It looked almost like a living space, though it had clearly been abandoned for years. Dust covered the floor and furniture, but the arrangement suggested someone had once lived here. There was a wooden table, a few chairs, and shelves lined with books and papers. On the walls, faded photographs showed people he vaguely recognized from town stories, though some faces were unfamiliar. The sunlight that managed to slip in through tiny openings made the dust particles dance, creating a surreal, almost magical atmosphere. Daniel felt as though he had stepped into another time, a place frozen in the past. He explored the room carefully, lifting papers and looking at photographs. The images showed families, gatherings, and scenes of everyday life. One photograph in particular caught his attention, a child standing in front of the same cliffs holding a small book. The date on the photo was decades old. Daniel wondered who the child was and what had become of them. There were also old newspapers scattered across the table, yellowed with age. Headlines about events in the town, some familiar, some forgotten, filled the pages. There were mentions of missing persons, disputes among influential families, and even small local scandals. It felt like the room was a secret archive, preserving memories and events that the town had long moved on from. As he moved deeper into the space, Daniel noticed another door, smaller and hidden behind a bookshelf. It looked like it had been carefully concealed. His curiosity grew. Slowly, he pushed the bookshelf aside and discovered a second room. This one was different, darker, more mysterious. There were journals stacked neatly on a table, some tied with string, others open as if someone had been writing recently. Letters were pinned to a corkboard, faded but still legible. The handwriting was precise, careful, as if the person who wrote them wanted their words to last. Daniel picked up a journal and began to read. It described a life lived in secrecy, someone watching over events in the town, documenting things that others did not want known. The more he read, the more he realized that this was not just an abandoned house. It was a place of secrets, carefully preserved over many years. The journals contained stories of people who had disappeared, of disputes that had been hushed up, and of events that had shaped the town in ways most residents would never guess. Daniel felt a growing sense of responsibility. These were not just old papers, they were pieces of truth preserved in the shadows. He understood why this place had been hidden, why no one had discovered it until now. The writer of these journals had chosen the cliffs for their isolation, for their ability to keep the world out. Every detail, every account was a piece of a puzzle that the town had ignored or forgotten. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as he turned the pages. He had stumbled upon something extraordinary, something that could change how people saw the town, how history itself was remembered. Among the letters, Daniel discovered correspondence between the secret inhabitant of the house and various people in town. Some letters were pleading, asking for help or warning of dangers. Others were more formal, providing evidence or instructions. Daniel realized that the person who lived here had been involved in protecting someone or something, possibly even preventing harm. The more he read, the clearer it became that the house had been a refuge, a place where truths were kept safe from those who might use them for harm. The weight of what he was discovering pressed down on him. Each piece of writing, each photograph seemed to connect to events he had heard about, but never fully understood. Daniel spent hours in the hidden room, reading and taking notes. He carefully documented the journals and letters, photographing pages to ensure he did not disturb anything. He felt a mixture of fear and excitement. Fear because of what he had found and the potential consequences of revealing it, and excitement because he had uncovered something that few, if any, people had ever seen. The room seemed alive with the stories it held, whispering secrets of the past into the present. He wondered who had lived here and why they had chosen to keep these secrets so well hidden. It was clear that the person had cared deeply about the town and the people in it, taking extraordinary measures to protect them. As the day wore on, Daniel realized he needed to rest. He left the hidden room and returned to the first room, taking a seat at the old wooden table. He looked around, taking in the photographs, the newspapers, and the furniture. It was incredible to think that all of this had been untouched for so long, preserved almost perfectly by the cliffs that surrounded it. He tried to imagine the person who had lived here moving silently, observing the town, recording every detail. The thought was both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Daniel felt a deep respect for whoever had maintained this HOA and its secrets. It was a testament to patience, dedication, and perhaps a touch of loneliness. Before leaving, Daniel carefully closed the hidden room and moved the bookshelf back into place. restoring the space to the way he had found it. He locked the small door in his mind, committing the room to memory. He stepped outside, feeling the sun on his face and the wind on his skin. The cliffs were quiet, but the weight of what he had discovered made the world feel larger, more complex. He realized that this place was not just a hidden house. It was a repository of truth, a guardian of the town's hidden history. Daniel knew he had stumbled upon something extraordinary, and he could not wait to return and explore more. The cliffs, once simply a place of adventure, had become a gateway to secrets long buried and stories waiting to be told. Daniel felt a mix of excitement and determination. The hidden house had revealed its first layer of mystery, but he knew there was much more waiting to be uncovered. Behind it, a hidden room, a secret passage, or even an old home lost to time. The possibilities raced through his mind, and he felt a surge of excitement he had not felt in years. Daniel decided not to open the door yet. Instead, he sat on a nearby rock and took out his notebook. He began sketching the doorway, the surrounding rocks, and the trail leading up to it. He wanted to remember every detail, to capture the moment before exploring further. As he sketched, he thought about the history of the cliffs. People had lived in this area for generations, and there were always rumors about hidden places. Daniel returned to the cliff house the following weekend, his mind still buzzing with questions from his last visit. The hidden room had left him with more curiosity than answers, and he could not shake the feeling that there was more waiting for him to discover. He packed lightly, carrying only his flashlight, notebook, camera, and a small bag with essentials. As he climbed the narrow trail leading to the hidden doorway, he felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The cliffs looked the same as always, rugged and quiet, but to Daniel they seemed more alive now, as if they were guarding secrets he was meant to uncover. Once inside the doorway, Daniel descended the staircase slowly, the familiar creak of the steps echoing softly. The first room greeted him with its dusty furniture, photographs, and scattered newspapers. He took a moment to absorb it all, feeling a strange connection to the person who had once lived here. There was a sense of care in the way the house had been arranged, as if its occupant had wanted the space to tell a story without saying a word. Daniel carefully made his way to the hidden room, moving the bookshelf aside and stepping inside. He had spent hours reading journals and letters the last time, but he knew there was more to uncover. Every item seemed to hold a piece of a larger puzzle. He picked up a journal that he had not yet opened. The pages were filled with meticulous handwriting, describing events in the town over decades. Some entries were personal, reflecting the writer's thoughts and fears, while others were investigative, noting suspicious activities and unexplained occurrences. Daniel realized that this person had been documenting more than just daily life. They had been collecting evidence, preserving truths that others had tried to hide. The more he read, the more he understood that the house was not just a place to live, but a sanctuary for secrets. It was clear that the occupant had gone to great lengths to protect sensitive information, aware that revealing it too soon could cause harm. One journal entry described a confrontation between the writer and an influential family in town. The details were precise, naming events, dates, and people involved. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine as he realized that these were not fictional stories. They were real accounts of power, deceit, and hidden agendas. The journal also mentioned others who had helped the writer, people who had trusted them to protect the truth. It became clear that the house in the cliff was a hub of quiet vigilance, a place where someone had worked tirelessly to ensure that secrets did not destroy lives. Daniel could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. What he held in his hands was more than just history. It was evidence, a record of actions and events that had shaped the town. He moved to a pile of letters next. These were correspondence between the hidden resident and people who had been involved in or affected by the events in the journals. Some letters were pleas for help, others were warnings, and some were expressions of gratitude. It was apparent that the person who lived here had been in constant communication with others, guiding, advising, and protecting. Daniel imagined the courage it must have taken to live this way, isolated yet deeply connected to the lives of many. Each letter added another layer to the story, revealing the complexity of human relationships and the risks people take to safeguard the truth. As he continued exploring, Daniel discovered photographs he had not noticed before. They showed scenes of the town and its residents, some familiar faces, others unknown. Some photographs were taken at unusual angles or in secret, suggesting that the person who lived here had been observing events closely. Daniel realized that these images were not just memories. They were documentation, capturing moments that could corroborate the written accounts. It was like piecing together a puzzle, each photograph and journal entry connecting to form a clearer picture of the hidden realities of the town. Daniel felt both awe and apprehension. The more he uncovered, the more he understood the magnitude of the secrets preserved within these walls. He spent hours in the hidden room, moving carefully, photographing pages, and taking notes. He wanted to remember everything without disturbing the delicate balance of the space. Each discovery deepened his respect for the person who had lived here, someone who had dedicated their life to preserving truths that others might have preferred to forget. Daniel could feel the intensity of their efforts, the careful attention to detail, and the quiet determination that had sustained them over the years. It was both inspiring and humbling. He began to understand that the house was not just a secret, it was a testament to the power of dedication, courage, and the pursuit of truth. Daniel could not stop thinking about the hidden house. Every time he walked past the cliffs or even drove near the town, his mind returned to the secrets tucked away behind the old doorway. He felt a growing sense of responsibility and curiosity. Something about the journals, letters, and photographs called to him, urging him to dig deeper. He decided that he had to return, to explore more thoroughly and uncover the truths that had been hidden for decades. When he reached the cliff house, the morning light bathed the rocks in soft gold. The air was cool, filled with the scent of damp earth and pine. Daniel approached the hidden doorway, heart racing, knowing that what he would find today might change everything. He opened the door and descended the familiar staircase, the creak of the steps echoing in the quiet space. The first room welcomed him like an old friend, dusty and silent but full of history. He paused, taking a deep breath, feeling the weight of the place and the secrets it held. He moved to the hidden room, carefully sliding the bookshelf aside. Inside, he immediately focused on a stack of journals he had not yet examined. The handwriting was neat and deliberate, each page filled with observations, accounts of events, and notes about people in town. As Daniel read, he began to notice connections he had missed before. The journals told stories of families and individuals intertwined in ways that were not obvious to outsiders. There were mentions of disputes, cover-ups, and long-forgotten events that had shaped the town's history. Daniel felt a chill as he realized the house had been more than a safe haven. It had been a witness to events that most people would never understand. While reading, Daniel discovered detailed notes about a missing child from decades ago. The entries described efforts to hide and protect the child, who belonged to a prominent family. The notes were precise, recounting visits, communications, and the measures taken to keep the child safe. Daniel felt a mix of sadness and admiration for the person who had orchestrated such careful protection. He realized that the house had been a secret hub for safeguarding people, keeping them out of harm's way, and documenting truths that could have caused chaos if exposed. The responsibility of understanding this history weighed heavily on him. Daniel continued his search and found a folder filled with letters and photographs that added more layers to the story. Some letters were heartfelt, expressing fear, gratitude, or desperation. Others were more formal, conveying instructions, warnings, and evidence of wrongdoing. The photographs depicted events, people, and places connected to the stories in the journals. Some faces he recognized from town legends, while others were completely unfamiliar. Each document seemed to deepen the mystery, revealing the lengths to which someone had gone to preserve truth and protect lives. Daniel realized that the house was not only a sanctuary, but also a carefully organized archive of secrets. As he pieced together the documents, Daniel noticed recurring names and patterns. He began to understand the relationships between the people mentioned, the hidden connections that had influenced events in the town. The journals and letters revealed hidden alliances, acts of courage, and moments of betrayal. Daniel felt a sense of awe at the dedication of the person who had lived here, someone who had committed years of their life to documenting, observing, and protecting. The house seemed almost alive with the weight of its history, whispering its secrets to those patient enough to listen. Hours passed as Daniel worked, meticulously documenting what he found. He photographed pages, made notes in his own journal, and tried to connect the dots. He felt a growing sense of urgency, realizing that the information he had uncovered could shed light on unresolved mysteries and injustices in the town. At the same time, he knew he had to be careful. Revealing these truths could have consequences, and he wanted to understand everything fully before taking any action. The tension between curiosity and responsibility was intense, but Daniel felt it was necessary to continue. While examining a stack of papers tucked behind a shelf, Daniel stumbled upon a series of letters that appeared to have been sent to authorities decades ago. Daniel could not stop thinking about the secrets he had discovered in the Cliff House. Every night, he reviewed the journals, letters, and photographs in his mind, piecing together the story and trying to understand the lives of the people involved. He knew he had found something extraordinary, something that could change how the town saw itself. He also felt a growing sense of responsibility, knowing that the knowledge he now held could have consequences for people who were still living. He decided that he needed help to bring these truths to light in a careful and responsible way. He reached out to a trusted journalist, someone known for integrity and discretion. Over a series of meetings, Daniel shared his findings, recounting the details of the hidden house, the journals, the letters, and the photographs. He explained how the house had been a secret archive, documenting events, protecting people, and preserving truths that others had tried to hide. The journalist was captivated and immediately saw the significance of what Daniel had discovered. They agreed to approach the story carefully, verifying facts and preparing for the impact that the revelations would have on the town. Together, Daniel and the journalist began to piece together the timeline of events described in the journals. They mapped out the connections between families, individuals, and incidents, uncovering a network of hidden relationships and long-forgotten disputes. The missing child, the letters to authorities, and the photographs of secret meetings all came together to form a clearer picture of the past. The process was meticulous and slow, but Daniel felt a sense of purpose as he worked to honor the legacy of the person who had maintained the house and its secrets for so many years. As the investigation progressed, Daniel discovered additional documents in the hidden room that he had overlooked before. These included financial records, notes on property transactions, and lists of people who had been involved in protecting the hidden truths. Each piece added depth and clarity to the story, confirming the accuracy of the journals and letters. Daniel realized that the house had been carefully maintained as a repository of evidence, a place where nothing was left to chance. The level of detail and organization amazed him, and he felt a growing respect for the person who had lived here, someone who had devoted themselves to a quiet but powerful mission. The journalist began preparing the story for publication, taking care to verify every detail and protect the identities of those who were still vulnerable. Daniel provided photographs, copies of letters, and scans of the journals, creating a comprehensive record of the hidden house and its significance. As they worked, Daniel felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He knew that once the story was published, the town would be forever changed. People would learn truths that had been hidden for decades, and the reactions could be unpredictable. But he also felt that the time had come for these secrets to be known, that the legacy of the house deserved to be recognized. When the story was finally published, the town was buzzing with reaction. Some residents were shocked by the revelations, others grateful for the exposure of truths that had long been concealed. The story brought closure to some families, answers to questions that had lingered for years, and recognition for the courage of the person who had maintained the hidden house. Daniel felt a deep sense of relief and satisfaction, knowing that he had played a role in honoring the legacy of the house and bringing its story to light. The Cliff House itself became a symbol of hidden courage and dedication. Local authorities ensured that it was preserved as evidence and historical record, maintaining the integrity of the space, while allowing historians and researchers to study its contents. Daniel visited the house one last time, walking through the rooms with a sense of awe and gratitude. He imagined the life of the person who had lived here, dedicated to protecting truth and safeguarding lives. The house, once a secret, had become a testament to human resilience, courage, and the importance of standing for what is right, even in the shadows. Daniel felt a sense of closure but also purpose. The experience had changed him, teaching him the value of curiosity, perseverance, and responsibility. He realized that uncovering the hidden house had not only revealed the past, but had also shaped his own path forward. The Cliffs, once a place of solitude and adventure, had become a symbol of discovery, courage, and the impact one person can have on the lives of many. Daniel knew that the story of the secret house would live on, inspiring others to seek truth and act with integrity, even when the world is unaware. As he walked away from the cliffs, the sun setting behind the rocks, Daniel looked back one last time. The doorway, small and unassuming, remained as it always had, silent and patient, guarding the secrets within. But now those secrets had a voice, and the truth they held would never be forgotten. Daniel carried with him not just the story of the hidden house, but the lesson that courage, patience, and dedication can preserve the truth, protect lives, and leave a lasting impact on the world. The secret house in the cliff had revealed a shocking truth, but it had also revealed the quiet strength of those who dare to act with integrity, even when no one is watching. The letters described threats, warnings, and evidence of illegal activities involving influential families. Some letters were ignored, others suppressed, but all of them painted a picture of a town with hidden struggles and unspoken truths. Daniel felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he realized how much had been concealed from the public. The hidden house had been a quiet observer, recording everything and protecting lives, while the outside world remained unaware. As the afternoon sun began to filter through the small windows, Daniel found a map tucked into one of the journals. It showed locations around the town and surrounding cliffs, marking places of significance, meetings, and events. Some marks corresponded to areas he had visited before, while others were new and intriguing. The map suggested a network of hidden paths, safe houses, and secret meeting spots. Daniel felt a surge of excitement and a little fear. The more he uncovered, the more complex and interconnected the secrets became. He realized that he was standing on the edge of a story much larger than he had ever imagined. Daniel paused for a moment, leaning back against the dusty wall. He tried to imagine the life of the person who had created all this, living in isolation, watching, documenting, and protecting. The dedication, patience, and courage required were remarkable. He felt a deep respect for this unknown individual, recognizing the sacrifices and risks involved. The house had been a silent guardian of truth and safety, a hidden force shaping the town in ways most people would never understand. Daniel realized that the legacy of this house was not just in the documents and photographs, but in the careful, deliberate actions of someone committed to doing what was right, even when unseen. As evening approached, Daniel reluctantly decided it was time to leave. He carefully restored the hidden room, moving the bookshelf back into place and making sure nothing was disturbed. He walked back up the staircase and out through the doorway, feeling the cool breeze of the cliffs on his face. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the rocks, and Daniel felt a sense of awe at the magnitude of what he had discovered. The house was more than a hidden place. It was a repository of human courage, a witness to the hidden stories of the town, and a testament to the quiet power of truth. Walking down the trail, Daniel reflected on the day's discoveries. He knew he was only beginning to understand the significance of the house. There were still many unanswered questions, hidden connections, and untold stories waiting to be uncovered. He felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility, knowing that he had become a part of the story. The hidden house had entrusted him with its secrets, and he felt determined to honor that trust. The cliffs, once simply a place of adventure and solitude, had become a gateway to understanding a hidden past and the extraordinary life of someone who had dedicated themselves to protecting truth. Daniel knew that when he returned, he would uncover even more, and each discovery would bring him closer to understanding the full story behind the secret house in the cliff. While examining a stack of documents, Daniel came across something that made him pause. It was a series of notes describing a missing child from decades ago, connected to a prominent family in town. The details were vague but compelling, suggesting that the child had been hidden to protect them from danger. Daniel felt a lump in his throat as he read. The thought of a child being hidden, the fear and uncertainty involved, and the courage it must have taken to protect them, weighed heavily on him. The notes hinted that the house had been a safe haven, a place where lives were shielded from harm and where secrets were kept to prevent tragedy. Daniel realized that the significance of the house went far beyond curiosity. It had been a guardian of people's safety and dignity. He spent the rest of the afternoon piecing together the fragments of stories, connecting the journals, letters, photographs, and documents. It was like uncovering a hidden web of relationships, events, and secrets that had shaped the town in ways he had never imagined. Each discovery brought new questions, but also a growing sense of understanding. He began to see patterns, motives, and consequences that were invisible to the casual observer. The house had been a witness to history, a silent recorder of truths that most people would never know. Daniel felt a mix of wonder, fear, and responsibility. He knew that what he had found could change the way people saw their own town and their own past. As the sun began to set, Daniel reluctantly decided to leave. He carefully restored the hidden room, making sure everything was as he had found it. The weight of what he had discovered followed him up the stairs and out through the doorway. The cliffs were quiet in the evening light, but Daniel's mind was racing. He thought about the courage it had taken for someone to live this way. Alone but vigilant, protecting truths that could have caused upheaval if revealed too soon. He realized that the house was more than a place. It was a responsibility, a legacy of quiet heroism that he now shared. Walking back down the trail, Daniel felt a mixture of emotions. He was amazed by what he had uncovered, inspired by the dedication of the house's former resident, and anxious about what it all meant. The cliffs, once just a place of solitude and adventure, had become a doorway into the hidden realities of the town. Daniel knew that he would return, that he had only scratched the surface of the secrets held within the walls of the cliff house. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with questions and discoveries, but he felt ready. The hidden house had opened a window into a world few had seen, and Daniel was determined to understand it fully. It was more than a mystery. It was a story waiting to be told, and he was now part of it, entrusted with its secrets and its truth. Lost treasures and secret hideaways. But most of these stories were just that, stories. This door felt real, tangible, and almost impossible to ignore. He felt a sense of responsibility, as if discovering it meant he had been chosen to uncover something important. The sun climbed higher, and the shadows shifted across the rocks. Daniel realized he had been sitting there for nearly an hour, lost in thought. He closed his notebook and stood up, looking at the door again. He felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. There was something about the silence, the stillness of the cliffs that made him aware of every sound. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of a hawk, the faint sound of his own breathing. He knew that whatever was behind the door could change the way he saw the cliffs forever. He wanted to explore, but he also wanted to be careful. The door was a mystery, and mysteries demanded respect. Reluctantly, Daniel decided to leave the door for now. He did not want to rush into anything without thinking it through. He marked the spot in his notebook, drawing a small map of the trail and the location of the door. He made a mental note to come back the next day, better prepared and ready to explore. As he walked back down the trail, he could not stop glancing over his shoulder at the doorway. It seemed to watch him as he moved away, silent and patient, waiting for him to return. Daniel felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. He knew that once he returned, nothing would be the same. The cliffs had always held secrets, but this door was different. It felt like the beginning of something much bigger than himself. That night, Daniel could not sleep. He kept thinking about the doorway, imagining what might be inside. He thought about old houses, hidden treasures, secret documents, and the people who might have used this place. He wondered if anyone else had seen it before him, or if he was the first in decades to notice it. The thought made him feel special, like he had stumbled upon something no one else had. But at the same time, he felt a sense of caution. The door was old, and old things often came with old dangers. He tried to imagine the inside, but the more he thought about it, the more questions he had. Who had built this? Why was it hidden? What secrets did it hold? The questions swirled in his mind, making it impossible to focus on anything else. By morning, Daniel was determined. He packed a small bag with essentials: water, a flashlight, a camera, and his notebook. He told himself he would be careful, that he would explore slowly and observe everything. The thought of discovering something lost to time, something no one else had seen, filled him with energy. As he approached the cliffs, he felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The door was still there, waiting. It looked the same as the day before, solid and unyielding. Daniel took a deep breath and reached out, ready to see what lay beyond. He had no idea that what he was about to discover would change not only his life, but also the quiet town below the cliffs. The cliffs had always been full of stories, but Daniel was about to uncover one that no one could have imagined.